Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I've got another one in the QuestLog for you today, and we have a new podcast we're doing called the QuestLog. Super original and great. Andres came up with it. Very happy. All credit to him. We're going to be talking about developing our local scene, and Andres here, I think, has done a fantastic job with trying a lot of new things.
Thank you.
And really pushing the game in a very natural and healthy way. So why don't you tell us like your name, a couple of questions, like what's your name, right? Like how long have you been playing the game for? Introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, my name's Andres. Jeremiah said. I've been playing Flesh and Blood since just before Uprising, June 2022-ish. I started playing with, the release of that set kind of a little bit before on the tail end of Everfest. I picked up a Levia Blitz deck with my good friend Justin. He picked up a Bolton Blitz deck. And after heading over, just serendipitously strolling into a Thursday Armory at Chaos Gamer Lounge and watching the guys play, we thought it was really interesting and worth picking up the Blitz decks. And I mean, the rest is history. I've been playing the game since then. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily competitive, not for lack of maybe capability or anything
More of like a
that.
local hero,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Showing up to armories and pushing the net and really getting people to play the game and playing the game yourself,
Right.
And who is your primary hero?
Levia, Shadowborn Abomination.
He's one of those guys.
Yeah. I'm
Oh,
a shadow
all right.
guy.
You learned everything you know from Mansant, and if it wasn't for Alejandro, you would have never played the hero.
Oh my God.
I'm teasing,
It's
guys.
a local meme.
I'm teasing. Do you have any other secondary heroes you've been experimenting with lately?
I usually really only play Levia. I've played a bunch of other heroes. I've built a few other decks, like I've got Vincent sitting here in front of me. I really like the Shadow Talent. I really like the Shadow Concept, the Shadow Thematic. What they've done with it so far is a different story. But I've played my fair share of Vincent. I'm trying my hand at Gravy Bones. I understand a lot of people like him, and he's really cool. I'm still getting a feel for
He's really hard.
whether I like it or not. There's a lot of decision points.
So many. Too many.
But yeah, it's primarily Levia. I play all of the brutes, of course, because when you play one brute, you can play all of them, even though they all play very differently, and they all deck build very differently.
Yeah,
They all deck build very differently.
Watch out, we have under 18 people watching. I'm just kidding, guys. So no, so one reason I really wanted to talk with you, and I think it's really important, is that I personally play very competitively. I'm on a team, I travel. I think I've flown over 100 hours this year, just traveling strictly for Flesh and Blood, and I have a lot of fun doing that. But you mostly just stay local, and you're a father, you come out, you play the game, you really support the scene. And one goal I want to have about this discussion here is how do you develop your local scene? That's something I talk to people all the time about, something they're always mentioning. It's just like, hey, like, I don't have that big of a local scene. How do I make it bigger? And maybe you already have a big local scene, but you could probably benefit from watching this to help you not only draw more people into the game, but also if you have friends in other states or they move away, that you can kind of help them have this information and baseline. Because I think one thing I personally love about this game is that it's really a grassroots type of game. There's not a whole lot of marketing that goes into this aside from like their trailers on YouTube, and there's probably some other things, but it's all ran through the local game store. And so I kind of want to talk about like what draws us to Fab, like what really brings us into this game, Flesh and Blood,
Absolutely.
like what got us there, right? And so like what really pulled you into the game?
Well, I'm a little bit interesting, I think, in terms of the Fab demographic, because I was never a card gamer. I played maybe 1 or 2 games of Magic before I ever picked up Flesh and Blood. I played Pokemon with my son, and as a kid, as one does, but I really wasn't a card gamer, and I know a lot of the Flesh and Blood demographic is ex-Magic players, ex-competitive card gamers, solely because of the competitive nature, the 1v1 nature of Flesh and Blood. When I first saw Flesh and Blood, what first drew me was the characters, the thematic, the hero-based gameplay. And then when I sat down and started playing the game, it was the constant interaction, the constant decision points, and I'm a person who really enjoys having to sit there and think through what can be very complex problems.
There's a lot of agency.
Exactly.
Yeah. I absolutely love that about Flesh and Blood. Like that's what really pulled me in. Like I remember sitting down, playing one particular very popular game, trading card game, and trying to get into it competitively, and I just felt like I had no agency. That all my decisions didn't matter, and I was like, oh, my lack of knowledge of the 30,000 card base plus just ended up making me lose. So like 100% on there with you, brother. Like agency is huge in the game. Is that the number one thing? Any other like major stuff?
Agency, decision making. I mean, what drew me specifically to the game itself, again, the thematic. When I saw Levia, when I saw the character designs, when I felt like I could like feel the lore, feel what they were trying to represent. Honestly, I wish lore were a bigger piece of the overall game building, but there's so much being communicated visually through the game that you can feel through the mechanics as you play the game that I really fell in love with that aspect of it. And like I said, the Armory, the Levia Blitz deck, and the Bolton Blitz decks, as you know, whether or not they're the best onboarding products on the face of the earth, they really felt like I was playing, this demonic shadow French girl versus this Bolton Knight guy. And I was really, I was hitting him hard with big numbers, and he was trying to hit me with his little shiny sword thing. And at the end of that game, at the end of those games, I felt like we had kind of fought this epic battle in a way that no other card games had drawn me in. No shade to people who like Magic the Gathering, but that's just solitaire with extra steps.
And it's immersive storytelling. So like Flesh and Blood doesn't have the lore, but you can feel the character. Like you feel drawn and connected to character, and that's something I personally really love. Is in a lot of ways the storytelling is like Dark Souls, like Elden Ring. Like Flesh and Blood is the Dark Souls of trading card games. Like I don't think there's any other card game out there that really embodies that same kind of like brutal, self-critiquing spirit that makes you walk away and say, "Wow, I want to do that again." And but except other people are the bosses that just keep grinding you down into the dust. And that's the thing, like the personal connection. Like I love the personal connection. Like I would have never ever met Andres if it wasn't for this game.
Very true.
This game is in person only, and there's no digital client officially. And this is a small company that had a vision that's really enacted their art and their theming, and I think that is an incredible point and really good. And I don't want to get stuck on this too long because we could probably talk for the next 6 hours about this topic because it's one of the best aspects of the game. The art, everything. Like we got posters up here, and they all look amazing.
The best one of all,
in his opinion. But I do want to talk about like how do we develop our local scene, right? Like what are some major things that we can do positively that can make the scene better? Because I'll tell you what, when I first started back with Everfest, our local scene only had like 8, maybe 10 players in it. They played regularly. And now I think we probably have somewhere between 20 and 40 players in total.
In the whole ecosystem.
What's funny is 6 of those original players stopped playing the game regularly than when I started. So we're like up like 50 players in the Tri-County area of Florida. So what are some ways that you think like people can do to say, hey, how can I make my scene better?
Well, as you know, I began going to the Thursday Armory. There came a point in my life, just my schedule, the rhythm of my life, my schedule didn't allow me to start going to the Armories anymore. But I still wanted to keep playing, and I've always been a person, I like bringing people together. I enjoy organizing, events. I enjoy bringing folks together and making things run smoothly. So another place, another venue nearby, I basically told them, listen, if you guys support the product, if you guys will support our Armory, I will make sure that on Wednesdays, and that's why we have our Wednesday Armory, on Wednesdays we will have a group of people. And I think something that drew me to this game, as you mentioned, was the community. When I saw the kind of folks that were playing Flesh and Blood, the demographics, I saw people who were kindred spirits of mine in a sense, not just with the game itself, but I just felt like I had something in common with everybody. Like we could have good conversations, like we were all in relatively maybe similar stages of life, or just had personalities that seemed to mesh in one way or another without some of the other, stereotypical I guess, images that people have of like
Yeah.
sweaty card gamers and things like that. None of us were like that.
We had a diverse group of guys.
Right.
And we do got some sweaties there, don't
we
I
have
see you
sweaties.
there. You're
We have
watching. You know who
sweaties.
you are. We love you.
Walking into
love
a
you.
room of Flesh and Blood players
Yeah.
felt so much different than walking into a room of Magic players or Yu-Gi-Oh players.
And nothing against Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh players, to be fair. Nothing against any of you guys playing in the inferior game. But I get your point, right? Like you walk in and you feel the welcoming spirit.
Yeah.
Because everybody is here. We're all playing this amazing game. Because you know what? The game's brutal. But the community is caring. Like the community is great. Like everybody you played the game with, you get to go and hang out.
Everyone who plays
It's
Flesh
so
and Blood
awesome.
is an evangelist. Everyone who really plays the game, who really takes time playing the game, whether super competitively or just for fun. And the Venn diagram of those people, let's be honest, it's on a smaller scale because the game itself is a competitive game. In that sense, the casual element is still something that that needs to continue developing. But everyone who plays the game is the best kind of evangelist. They are so ready and so willing to take their figurative shirt off of their back. They will give you a deck. They will walk you through every turn cycle. They will put all of the heroes in front of you and ask you, hey, what do you like about this one? What do you like about that one? And they are so excited and earnestly willing to walk through all of that with you because they know that the floor is kind of so high on learning, especially if you haven't come from a game before, that it really creates a sense of bond.
Yeah.
And I think that's a critical element of building any of these communities. We started the Armory on Wednesday with the notion I want to bring in new players, I want to kind of try different formats, and I want to do it in a more fun way. At the time, they were still doing kind of competitive-based armories. Were still the norm.
Yeah, they were pretty big. Like all of our local armories were super sweaty. You'd show up and you'd have the player in front of you with a $500 deck, $500 deck, $1,000 deck, and it was hilarious because when I first showed up, I was on Prism and Everfest days, original Prism, and they looked at me and said, "You don't have footsteps?" And I said, "No. Do I need it?" And they said, "You'll lose if you don't have it." And I said, "Oh." And they said, "Here, you can borrow mine." And I was like, okay, cool. So I borrowed their footsteps, and I immediately bought it that day. Came in, and the next week I had my very own footsteps, right? Because I wanted to be invested in the game and play it, partially because these guys were so cool to even let me borrow that. But I do want to talk about the Guildhall stuff because it was, man, last night I attended Armory, and what were there, 12 people?
It was an 11-person armory.
11-person Armory. Look at that. Yeah. And and some of you out there might be laughing at us, especially you in the northeast corner of the woods, right? Where you're like, oh, we have 40 people armories and it's blitz and we're running. No, this is a CC Armory at 8 p.m. on a Wednesday night. We had 12 guys show up in a community of people that probably a year ago, maybe 3.
Yeah, struggling
maybe
to
2.
get 6-player armories.
And to be fair, we've got 5 armories in our locals. Every day of the week, if you want to play an armory, you can just show up to it and you get to play Flesh and Blood in person. Which is super impressive. Now, what I really liked is that you were saying you really wanted to connect with your guy, and I think this is really important, is that we need point guys. You need a point guy, you need somebody there. I love local game stores, but to be honest, when you're trying to start your own armory, your own local scene, some of these LGSs just look on and say, well, I could just put all the effort into the big 3. Those sell. Those bring butts to seats. Right? So developing that, it's not just the in-person interactions with the other people, it's also with the local game store guy. I even have a local game store where I'm good friends with both of them, actually. I think all the people that own the local game stores I have a good connection with and I talk to and develop a relationship with them. And they're like, you know what, we want to support Flesh and Blood now because you're a cool person, because we like the community, because the game is such a really cool game. We'll do what we can, just let us know. So you're the point guy for that.
Right. So with any store, Guildhall included, like I mentioned, the Wednesday Armor we have is Guildhall Anime Lounge, Coconut Creek, Florida. Come check it out. It's one of the coolest stores there is. Check out all the stores around here. But not only do you have to build a relationship with the store owners, you have to demonstrate to them that you can add value, that you can put butts in seats. You almost have to do...
And it takes time.
You have to do some marketing with them.
It takes time.
You have to be willing and able to develop those relationships within the community and also show that you can bring in new people. And the way to do that, not just through the game itself, but is by showcasing the value that as a player they can attain. One of my gripes This isn't necessarily a criticism or anything, and I think they've improved this with like Gem and other stuff. Originally is that, yeah, they were sweaty armories because everyone was competing for the $30+ cold foil, and the system punished new entrants for not being good enough.
Especially at our locals.
Yeah, especially at our locals. I will contend, having traveled, I travel for work all over the place, and I'm a sweaty degen, so every time I travel, I go to an armory wherever I'm at. I look for one, and I go. And the difference that I feel in terms of skill level playing against, you know, our locals, especially in the past, against folks, you know, random folks all over the place, is stark. I think that I think maybe to a lesser degree now, since it's whittled down on some of those longer-standing folks lately, but running the gauntlet of our local scene and learning in that environment and the punishment of that environment, and then taking that elsewhere, I improved at the game at a pace that I didn't realize I was improving at, relative to folks I was playing elsewhere.
But you did something really good too, and I think a lot of players can do this, because I think that we can get locked into our different formats, right? Where we just say, oh, we're just going to play Blitz at this place, and that's it. We're just going to play CC at this place, and that's it.
Right.
We're just going to play LL at this place. I don't know who's playing LL. Like,
No,
but hey, maybe you're out there, and you just have LL at the same time every single week, right? We can get really locked into our individual formats, but you did something different. You said, you know what? Once a month, let's play Clash.
Right.
Let's shift it up, guys. I mean, none of our locals like Blitz, but you know, let's get into Clash. And I think that Clash did a really good job at not just inviting new players, but also shifting the mindset of how some of us sweatier guys, like me personally, that travels everywhere, engages with the game. Right. Where I can sit down with a deck with only commons and rares, with a couple of specializations, or even like Project Blue, and then just have fun.
Absolutely.
And we made it a league too, didn't we?
We did. We made it into a league format. It's on a little bit of a break right now, as I've just had a lot of different things going on, and we have a tournament. But absolutely, I think part of the barriers to entry for a new player and the feeling of overwhelm is, frankly, the cost of entry to CC. Not just from a deck building cost perspective, but from a complexity perspective. Right? Majestics, legendaries, all the different things, all the different ways to interact. That is an additional layer of complexity introduced to an already complex, fundamental, mechanical level of the game. So when we introduced Clash, I didn't just introduce it as a way to change up the format and kind of bring down the level of difficulty, but also as a way to, you know, do something more inviting for new players, do something a little different for our local community, because, you know, sometimes the CC meta can feel stale, or we're tired of playing against the same heroes or playing the same heroes all the time.
Especially in a local team.
Right, and then opening it up so, you know, you have access to all of these heroes. You have access to all of these different kinds of
I love playing Terra.
cards. Right.
Terra is so much fun.
And Clash enabled us to kind of build a bunch of pre-constructed decks that everybody can use, or the Blitz decks right out of the box, and still have fun without, you know, without creating this big barrier to entry. And we could also use it as a right. It's a great use of bulk. And we could really use it as a way to onboard. And we onboarded, I think, a small group of folks to say, with that format, that now they play CC, or now they continue to come to the Clash nights. And one thing on Clash, I liked Clash in particular above, and it's not an official format, I understand, but I liked it more than Commoner, because there was, you still get, with the Clash rules, if you're not familiar with Clash, you can look it up on Fabrary. It's
I'll
a great
flash
format.
it up on the screen right here while you're talking. We'll probably just have it in the background.
Perfect.
There with link and everything. So
it gives you a flavor of the hero that you're playing, above and beyond just what the common card pool allows you. So you still get to see, hey, this is what they're capable of at a really mitigatable range, right? And in a way that still feels fair player to player. You're not just looking for that broken combo, you're still getting a sense of what that hero does in a cool way, because you get access to specializations, and you get access to rares and stuff.
And weapons. I think weapons are huge, because you get to play
weapons.
majestic weapons in Clash, and that really gives people a feel for it. And I don't think there's any majestic weapon in the game that's too expensive, right? They're all like really cheap. And so it's a really low barrier to entry to get a feel for even the past. Like if you wanted to ever play Oldhim but never got to play him, hey, you get to play Oldhim with a Winter's Whale. But that's part of like the idea of inviting people in and experiencing the game, the lore, and these characters that they never played before. But I do kind of want to move forward a little bit, right? Because I do. And hey, LSS, if you're listening, please, Project Blue is cool. Just adopt Clash. Just do it. Make it simple, simplify it, streamline it, adopt Clash. I think it's an amazing format.
I think they should.
I had a lot of fun with it. Get a look into it. February, come on. Get into them. Like, let's go.
Right. It's on February. You can build decks there. It's easy.
But I've noticed something really interesting, and this is something that I've just observed, and I want to get your take on this, right?
Sure.
Is I think that there are a couple of pitfalls to building your local scene, and I've fallen for it. I've seen my friends fall for it, and I've just kind of taken a step back and quietly watched. And I'll be honest, I think the biggest mistake anybody can make in trying to get their friends to play this game is, you used an interesting word, you used evangelist. I think there's a very other different side to that, and it's being a salesman.
Right.
I don't think it's our job as players to sell the game. No. It's not our job. That's all in LSS. LSS makes these amazing trailers, they make this incredible art, they make this incredible hero, and then we, the cool players, come and play the game.
Right.
But what I've noticed is that like new players will walk in and we'll show them the game and we'll be like, oh, bro, this is just so much fun. I get to come in here and play the game and this is so great. And you just kind of try to sell it to them, right? And however many like different ways and varieties, right? Like you've seen it before, you know what I mean? Like you've seen like you get this vibe where people just try to say, hey, you should just play this game because it's the best game out there. And
Right.
I'm selling it to you.
The
You know
first
what I mean?
thing I tell these guys is this is better than any game you're playing.
I agree, but then sometimes people take it a step too far.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think like becoming like a salesman is too much.
Yeah, I think so too. I think part of the issue with the game is that despite the fact that it's grown an immense amount, there isn't being enough attention focused on more effective marketing, more effective engagement at the local store level, incentivizing basically the advertising, right? You want to incentivize these stores, you want to incentivize these local game stores to continue to not just evangelize the game, but to create a marketing environment that pulls people in. I think they're getting better at that. I think part of the challenge has been it's grown so much globally that local markets have stagnated. If that makes any kind of sense. It's what I mean by that is the blanket has grown. You know, the overall area globally that the game is covering has obviously grown, but we're having a depth problem, right?
A bit.
When we have a hard time pulling in 6 players to 10 players and think 10, 12 players is this huge thing, that means we have a depth problem. And that depth problem comes from a lack of effective marketing from the company, frankly. They can keep getting better at that, and I know they'll continue to do that.
Marketing is a big budget thing, and I understand like it's a tall order, and especially to do it well. I think there are some things that they have done right. But you know what I did today? We actually had a brand new player join our Armory today. Brand new, spanking new, never played the game before. His friend had been telling him for months, play Flesh and Blood. This is why it's so amazing. But you know what got him into the game? I just sat down in a chair and I cracked open a box. And I said, oh my gosh, I just opened this treasure pack and got a Dead Threads extended art. This is incredible. Nice. And he said, whoa, that's actually pretty cool art. Yeah. And I said, here, open up a pack. And he opened up a pack, and now we're playing this game. And I think like sometimes we forget that opening packs is part of playing the game.
Opening packs is the most fun.
It is really fun. And I said, you know what? Have a stack of 8 packs. And I just handed him 8 packs, had him open it. I didn't tell him to sell the game or anything. And as he's opening and looking through, he's like, oh, what's this do? Like, where's the rarity? And I was just like answering his questions and engaging him. I didn't try to sell him on anything. I was like, yeah, this is a brand new set that features Necromancer and it's a pirate. So it's a pirate mechanologist and pirate ranger. And he was like, whoa, what else is in the game? Right. And I didn't really have to do anything more than just kind of show it to him.
Now, I will say, we can mention that they need to improve their marketing and all that. I'm sure these are things that they absolutely know.
Of course.
I will say, and this touches on the community building aspect, the evangelizing, you're right, shouldn't be sales pitchy. But it is up to us as, people who are interested in forming this community to create an environment that is inviting to other people. And part of that is just having fun, just enjoying the experience and remembering
Go out to eat after.
This is about hanging out. This is about meeting new people, playing, sharing something fun with them. And it is on us to get somewhat creative about how we choose to engage with the game at more than just an armory level. Turn your armories into something interesting. Like I said with Clash.
A league. Leagues were cool.
The league, yeah.
League is cool.
The Clash format that we do is a league format. So we accrue points, and at the end of the league season, we have a league tournament, and we do like extra money on the side.
Do the same
like
thing
a
for
cash
CC.
pot. Right.
You don't have to do Clash with that. You can do CC.
Creative.
Yeah.
De-emphasize, and I know people are going to jump on me or whatever because Flesh and Blood is a competitive game, but de-emphasize the competition and re-emphasize the collaboration, the participation, and that will get people coming back, over and over again.
And I think there's a better word, not just de-emphasize the competition, mitigate it.
Right.
Like, spread it out a bit more, right? Because you show up to a local armory and you lose. Oh well, I went 1-2 on Acilio today in my armory because I wanted to try out Acilio. I didn't get any store credit. I got a season 2 pack, didn't get anything. Oh well. Whatever. And some people try to say pack per win, but I think like what's really cool is if you do a league season, right? You get to mitigate the competition over the course of 3 to 4 months. And if I do go 2-1 at an armory, no big deal.
Yeah. Realign the value proposition. I think something you mentioned there is perfect. One shouldn't leave an armory thinking, and the first thought that comes to your head is, I went X whatever at armory. I had fun with my friends.
I did have fun with my friends, don't get me wrong. I had a lot of fun.
Right? Yeah, I
had a lot of fun.
played Acilio today, or I got my, I Deadwood Dirged Flugen, whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
I should take from that experience, my value proposition from that experience shouldn't be my score at the end of the armory. It's the fun I had playing with my friends. And I think gem packs are kind of a part of that. I have my own quandaries, my own issues with some of it, but that's beside the point. That's where we do have to get creative. They can do all the marketing in the world, but if we don't create a fun environment because we're having fun with our friends, then yeah, we've kind of failed. There are structural things that they can look at, and they have begun to continue to look at. But again, like I said, you shouldn't come out of an armory concerned that you came out of that armory X whatever. You should come out of an armory or an event thinking, I had a great time playing this deck.
And 100% agreed. You need to have fun. Even Brian Gottlieb, I remember this very keenly. Like, I love listening to all the developer talks, hearing what they think and stuff. I'll go exercise and everything, and I'll just plug them in, and I'll listen for 45 minutes. But Gottlieb said that if we're not having fun, he's not doing his job right.
Right. It's true.
And that's what, and I think we kind of got to channel that too, where it's like, hey, if your armory guys aren't having fun, if the player you're sitting across from isn't having fun, don't play. In fact, or not don't play, but you know what I mean? Like, if you're not having fun, what's the point?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. If this is and like he said, I'm a dad, I've got a job, whatever. Flesh and Blood, my weekly Flesh and Blood is like my night. It's the night I get to be with my buddies. It's the thing. I don't want to leave my fun night feeling slighted because I didn't, my blood rush bellow wasn't great, or we just got pooped on by a Zen.
Oh man,
and
that was
the nightmare that was that meta.
What?
Right, exactly.
I don't know who he's
the
talking
nightmare
about.
that was that meta for the
I never remember the nightmare times.
No, it's all been sunflower and farts.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. Rainbows. Now, speaking of rainbows, player investment. Something I've noticed, and I've done this a million times. I have given away so many cards to brand new players.
Oh yeah.
And then I never see them again. They show up for 1 or 2 armories. I'm like, here's some awesome cards. They don't buy their own decks, and then they just leave and never come back. I don't know what was up with that. But you know what?
They're just there to steal your bulk.
No, yes and no. I think there's a big mistake here, and it's not giving away too much. Mm-hmm. Like, we can end up giving away too much to people that they don't get invested into the game. Yeah. And that comes back to being a salesman. If you're just like, hey, here's a 60 card deck, it's all yours for free. Right. And we're gonna give you like $20 worth of cards and stuff, they kind of look at it and say, oh, it's not really mine, so I can walk away from this. But if they buy a CC Armory deck, you best believe they're showing up at least once a month.
I think
Because they
so.
put like $60 into it.
I think
and
so.
then from there, you can help them upgrade. But if they don't ever like invest their time and money into the game, I don't think they're ever going to show up again.
Oh, 100%. You know, different example from a different era in the game, but I bought the Blitz decks. What did I want to do as soon as I understood that Blitz and CC were different things? Is I wanted to upgrade my deck into a CC deck. Now, at the time, I don't think maybe Fabry might not have been as robust or whatever, but you know, it was I remember fondly the experience of, you know, picking things up piecemeal, you know, a little bit at a time, and creating that personal investment in myself.
yeah.
I think Armory decks have been a pivotal part in creating that new player investment.
The Ira line now is incredible.
Yeah.
What
Some better
Aurora
than
was
others.
supposed to be, but you saw what happened with
Right,
that.
right.
Like,
Some better than, I was going to say some better than others and not mention it, but you did, so
I
that's
did,
okay.
of course. I mean, look, like everybody played Aurora and they loved her. That's a successful hero in my book.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They did a great job in her character design. She was fun. She was just a little too much fun.
Well, that's where the intersection of, to get to player investment, that's where you have this intersection of game design balance, of effective onboarding product entry, and frankly, format environment. Because if you have a format that is unhealthy, or if you have a product environment that is non-conducive to onboarding, or you know, you have, you know, these decks that don't necessarily do enough or provide the value in a community that is just interested in playing the game one specific way, then you have a group of 10 people, each of them are going to have a problem with one side of that triangle, right? So again, it falls on the community to get creative. It falls on LSS to create products that are conducive to onboarding, and it also falls on LSS to design a meta paradigm that doesn't just from hero to hero. We're not talking about like the CC highest playing meta, but to design a hero paradigm that means that, hey, at a certain level of gameplay, Betsy is probably just as competitive as, I don't know, as Gravy right now or something, you know, and that's maybe Guardian versus Illusionist-esque hero is not the best example, but yeah, something that allows them to have the same level of fun at the same entry point and then have something to learn from.
Yeah.
And one of my biggest, this isn't necessarily a criticism, I guess it is, one of my biggest criticisms of the game is that as one area has seemed to improve, another area has seemed to fall short.
Yeah.
And it's this kind of snake chasing its own tail situation where you have something good here and design falls off. The Aurora situation is a perfect example. You created this strategic plan for an onboarding vision with this particular hero, and then you let design just completely decimate whatever that vision was supposed to be because she LLs in 6 months. Like, that should never happen.
Yeah, well, what's cool is that when you try something new, like you said, it reveals like, hey, here's the leaky parts of the ship.
Right.
And like you turn it a little bit, and suddenly you start taking on some water, and you're like, oh, maybe that wasn't a good idea to maybe push one singular hero onto a bunch of people, and now she just wins, right?
Right.
And now she's allowed, and then they course adjust. So that's something I love about this company is that they're a small company, right?
Sure.
That is able to make those adjustments immediately and as needed, and they're very open and honest and communicative with the community.
That is fair. They do, I mean, I don't have any experience with like other games and how they communicate, so
It's awful.
I'm sure.
It's bad.
I'm sure that, you know,
They're
Hasbro is a,
not just in the TCG,
you know, a
community,
giant multinational
like-
corporation.
Yes.
You know, they do communicate, they do course correct. I think my
Sort
concern
of.
is they course correct sort of. My concern is,
Sort of.
again,
They don't
take
really
water,
tell you what they do.
they take water from one place and they seem to move it to another place without necessarily fixing the hole.
LSS or the corporations?
LSS.
Oh, okay.
And they do communicate, and again, they've been getting better with it, I think, every time.
Yeah.
You know,
They dump water sometimes.
yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I'm not
I think
saying,
like MST was a one-off, and we've never gone back to that. I think every set since MST has been relatively.
you know
very
how I feel about Dust Till Dawn, for example. I can go on.
Oh,
about
bro, that
for
was
days.
straight up
That was-
experimentation, man.
That
is a long time. I don't even remember the
I
game.
will reserve my
pre-Outsiders
choice words
or
for Dust Till
that,
Dawn
yeah.
as a product. for another day and a different conversation.
We could talk about that. But
but yeah, I think that Venn diagram, like those three pillars, create a Venn diagram that enable that not just player onboarding, but retention. It allows players to retain a level of investment so that they continue coming back. And as we see with the sets that have been problematic or the paradigms that have been problematic, when one of those falls through the cracks, when one of those compacts in a way that the other ones can't make up for it, that's when people start vacating. That's when we've had locals who have just, especially, and again, I'll name drop MST. When MST was around, I think half of our locals just stopped coming. Just stopped going to
until the bans,
Armories.
right?
Until the bans.
Until the bans
Some didn't
happened.
come back.
And that's part of like what I'm saying. Like at least there's a response. At least there was like, you know what, a course correction, and at least something changed, because they didn't have to change it. They could have just said no, let's just keep our course, but they were willing to change it. And I think maybe even they recognize that in the data in itself. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Me personally, I personally am just flexible. I just said fine, I'll just play new. I don't like Ninja, so I'll just play new,
well, because
and I'll
you're
just
an
stop them
invested
from playing
player.
it.
You were invested.
Yeah.
You're invested monetarily.
invested.
You're invested with your time. You're invested with your team.
Absolutely.
But I think all of this, frankly, highlights how complicated a task that is, right? How complicated it is to balance all of those levers. And when you focus on one lever, whether you know it or not, the pressure you're applying to the other two levers can slip. And so I think we do have to have patience, and we do have to continue to grow with the game, because the game is, I'm not going to carry water for them. I have my criticisms, but the game is only 6 years old. They're not a giant multinational, and I think they do incredible things. Otherwise, I wouldn't be wasting my time doing this podcast and playing the game.
100%.
So,
we could pivot from here. I got a really good segue.
Tell me.
Because we're kind of talking about, like, I think we could jump into the market.
let's do it.
100%. Like, we could talk about the flesh and blood market. Because for me,
I can go on about that.
I was heavily invested into Kasai pre-MST, right? I was like, this is my hero, and then Missville came out, and now she wasn't that relevant anymore. But I transitioned into new, because I already owned all of the cards. I bought into Assassin when they were mega cheap, and then I bought Codexes for like 20 each or something when they first came out. I don't know, I got them at a really cheap price. And then I was able to just simply pivot to new.
Right.
Not everybody has that luxury though.
They do not. Now, I am...
Partially because the codexes were like $80 a pop at the time.
I think the fab economy and kind of the cost of entry and everything is just
nuts.
A whole different series of shows on its own, but it is nuts. Now, I have had the good fortune of playing Levia, and basically, I joke with them, I don't even like the game, I like Levia and Pretty Fabric. That's a joke, I love the game. But I play mostly Levia, and not because I can't buy into other heroes or whatever, but because that's just the most fun I'm having is playing Levia. So when I got my Cold Foil Carrion Husk, when I have her almost fully blinged out in all the ways I want to have her fully blinged out, and again, luckily, she's not in any danger of LLing anytime soon.
He chose his investments right. That's how you do it.
Right,
you pick a hero that'll never LL.
She's just good enough.
She's gone forever.
I don't ever want her to be broken.
She's never going to
I don't want her to
broken,
have
bro.
a Zen.
Even with, they could give her 3x LL points, and she will still be around for the next 6 months.
And I will keep...
For the next year and a half.
I will keep 3-0ing our local armories on Levia, and everyone will be, what the hell? How did this happen? And
it's because nobody's countering you.
Exactly.
Play Icelander.
No one's countering
she's
me.
gone? Oh, well, play Zen. Oh, he's gone? I guess all the best heroes are leaving.
So my investment in her has paid off, because I've gotten endless fun time, and I hope to continue to have endless fun time with her. But it's not the same with other heroes. In particular, relatively new heroes. I think, and I hope I'm proven, my assumption with Gravy is proven wrong. I don't think he's broken. I don't think he's too good, and I don't think he needs any bans. I think it's kind of a... Dromai was a similar-ish situation, maybe. I don't know. People will learn how to play around him, and his decks will get better, and there are plenty of things that counter.
How does that relate to the market,
that counter him?
We're
That
talking about
relates
the
to the market because the
about it.
market in this game is based entirely around what is competitive and what isn't.
Potentially.
So a Gravy deck right now is $1 bajillion.
A bajillion.
$1 bajillion.
A bajillion and a half.
$1 bajillion and a half.
And by a bajillion, that's the car. That's a Chevy bajillion. A 2002 Chevy Bajillion with a two-door
2002
sedan.
Heavy Bajillion. But yeah, he's the 2002 Heavy Bajillion right now because he's doing well at national events, and the meta shapes the market because of the world tour and everything we do, which I think is super cool.
Really
honestly.
cool. Yes.
But the cost of onboarding and the cost of the market and participating in the flesh and blood market, it suffers because all of a sudden you have what feel like insufficient print runs for what is truly a limited pool of competitive players. And so it creates
it's hard
this
to respond to that
imbalance.
too.
It is.
I mean, like, look, like Codex, players are complaining about Codex for months, and they finally reprinted it in high season. It just came out. Now it's down to 30, and I expect it'll go back to 50 or even 100 in the next whatever. But I think one major problem of the market is that this is a growing game.
Yeah.
There are so many people entering this game at an alarming rate. I think it's growing at 10%, 10, 15% a year. That's what I've just been seeing in numbers, like the number of people entering the game. And when you have that kind of growth, and now our sets are a little bit underprinted, you can't get product anywhere.
It's true. Getting product has been hard. I mean,
hard.
all the things with high seas. I think there have been extenuating circumstances with high seas.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I will give that benefit of the doubt.
The extenuating circumstances that everybody is buying out the set.
What I will
people
say
love the set.
It's
fun
if
to open.
you see growth,
Yeah.
you should plan toward that growth with investment in your additional growth in mind. I don't think they have done that. In a lot of the decision making that I've been critical of, it's because
who's
LSS.
LSS?
LSS. In a lot of the decision making I've been critical of in many
Which
of our
LSS?
conversations.
Legend Story Studio?
Legend Story Studio.
Okay, cool. We just had to clarify there, guys, because there's a few LSSs out there.
The decision making that I've been critical of in many of our own conversations has been their conservatism in certain decisions and their inability to kill some of their sacred cows.
Being Fables, maybe?
Fables is one of them.
Yeah, I recently did a video on this, and I don't think a pitch stack should be $1,000.
Absolutely not.
$1,000 pitch
insanity.
stack. If it is less than 4 cards, it's crazy.
Right.
$1,000 pitch stack should not exist.
I showed you a $1,000 pitch stack yesterday. Remember? You saw my pitch stack in the gravy game.
Yeah.
I still lost that game.
You had like 12. You had like 12.
You had $1,200.
You did. Yeah, he had it. He had 12 cards, and each card was $100.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, crazy, bro.
Yeah.
No, 2-card $1,000 pitch stack is really nuts, and the prices have come down a bit. The Triple Johnny Gem is $300, and Ivo Fiddy is like $500 range. It's still $800, and that's the maximum. And I don't think these cards are getting like a couple percentage points. These are like 5-10% here.
Easy problems to solve. Print more, design better, stop being bad.
We just get to tell this multi-million-dollar company how they should run themselves with no internals, nothing.
Hey, my profession is
I do think they are going to
planning.
reprint the Triple Donny, right? Because it needs a cold foil.
You think so? Do you really?
100%. That is,
you're right.
They don't have
I
a cold
forgot
foil.
they don't have a cold foil.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Triple Donny is going to get reprinted. So like, I bought boxes just trying to hit the gem because I don't want to buy it. I think buying it at 300.
Yeah, I got lucky. I bought a couple of cases because, as I told you, like I haven't invested heavily in any other hero. I've been waiting for Necromancer, like as a concept. I'm really into like the dark stuff, the shadow things, that gothic aesthetic. And I thought the pirate thing was cool, and so when I heard about the set, I'm like, I'm going to play this hero. Anything I pull and don't use for gravy, I'll just sell it. That's a good thing we can say about the general flesh and blood market, the macroeconomics. The stuff relatively retains its value. But anyway.
What's interesting about this set on the market point, though, is that every single one of Gravy Bones cards are Pirate Necromancer. There are only 2 cards in this entire game that are exclusively Necromancer.
Right.
And it is, the Headstone and the chess piece. That's it. And that's something really cool that's about these new talents that they're coming out with, is that they can do that.
The reviled thing looks cool.
Yeah, the revile, like revered, reviled, the new talents, and they can kind of mitigate this market stuff by saying, hey, if you want to play Gravy Bones, 95% of your cards are Pirate Necromancer. Right. You can buy into the set, and that's all you need, and then they can come out with a new Necromancer with like another talent, let's say Chaos. Chaos Necromancer, right?
That is a great point. De-emphasize generics, de-emphasize general use cards that everyone just kind of slaps into their deck, and focus on what makes the heroes or the small pool of heroes unique, so that the value is retained there.
Gravy Bones is using the arm piece, and he's using the chest piece. right in the L slots, like the Pirate L and the Necromancer L. And only the Necromancer L is going to translate to the next Necromancer.
Right.
So if you really want to play Necromancer, but you're not into Gravy Bones, you can just buy your Necromancer chess piece and call it a day.
Absolutely.
You invested $100 into the set, and you get to play whatever hero you're liking now, and you just wait for the next one.
Right.
Wait till it gets cheaper. Whatever. And then once the next one comes up that you're invested in and you like, you get to play. And this time it's the Chaos Necromancer, and then you can buy. You don't have to worry about any of the Majestics.
Chaos Necromancer sounds sick.
I mean, draw discard mechanics seem really good
You
with
know
the
me,
Chaos
I love
stuff.
me some draw discard.
I mean, Necromancer loves draw discard at this point.
You know,
That's
I'm
just
kind of
embedded in them.
butthurt a little bit because draw discard belonged to me and my brute friends.
That's why a Chaos Brute would make a lot of sense.
I think it would.
Yes,
I think it would make a
Chaos
ton
Brute
of sense.
would make
yes.
a ton of sense.
Yes,
That was actually my prediction for this set was Chaos Brute, Chaos Necromancer, and Chaos
If Monarch
Wizard.
3 is not the best thing I have ever seen in my life, I quit. I give up. I give up. You know, I waited so long for Dusk Till Dawn, and whatever, but I need Monarch 3 to blow my socks
We need our
off.
Codex of Shadow cards printed. Make the Torment, make that Torment
And
blood
again,
card
don't make
the-
it broken.
the
Give
draw
me
card. Yeah,
useful
fun
thematic stuff, like bread and butter stuff. I'll say it, the bread and butter cards, the commons and the rares and whatever in Dusk Till Dawn, and 80% of the Majestics, which is what I was really wanting to do. Hey, let's expand the breadth of gameplay, are unplayable. They cannot be used by anyone or anything in a real game because they are terrible.
I did some exploration, and I even turned to you, and I was
tried
like,
so
I was
hard,
like, hey, what was that one card that was like, it was a defense reaction blue Majestic, and you could play it, and then you draw and discard a card or something?
Yeah, no, so...
If you discarded a 6, you get to...
Expendable limbs.
Expendable limbs. I bought like 12 of those.
You can,
I want
play
them to be
it,
good,
you
please.
banish at random a card
They're
from
30
your
cents
hand,
each.
and you can play it on your next turn. Turns out, adding more random mechanics to already a Blood Debt downside is just bad.
And we kind of banned Berserk. So
right, and yeah,
I don't think we're going back to this randomized mechanics.
It's just bad. Like, it's just not good. You just don't want to do that ever.
Yeah, that's really sad. And that's what's interesting about markets here in Flesh and Blood is that you could go and buy some of these Majestics that are 30 cents each, and they're worth nothing for months. And then once Monarch 3 is put out, and maybe they release a hero, then suddenly this card, Expendable Limbs, is now insanely good.
Yeah.
And I think this is some really interesting stuff from the market perspective that players can actually enjoy and engage this game, especially at a lower level. Yeah. What?
Expendable Limbs would be busted. Not
would be
busted.
busted.
Expendable
It'd be very
Limbs
good.
would be super good.
I mean,
if it wasn't random.
Kind of falls in line with some of these other defense things, but if it wasn't random, yeah. And
Right.
if you were
like
to change it a little bit.
Courtside Exchange and some of these
now
other
they
Necromancer
finally-
ones are a good example of non-random.
So talking about Slam Dunk a little bit.
Okay.
They're now finally interacting with intellect in Classic Constructed, and I am so ecstatic about that. I think that's amazing. A stupid brute with 3 intellect. Awesome.
That is really cool.
I love it.
Yeah.
And then we have Victor Goldmane with 5 intellect, but everything blocks for half rounded up.
Goldmane.
Did I say Victor?
You said Victor.
My bad, guys.
Now, isn't that guy
Victor
supposed to be a
Goldmane's brother.
dwarf?
That's what I'm trying to say. I have no clue.
I heard
have
dwarf
not-
in the
I've heard it
trailer,
a
and now
little
I'm
bit,
like,
and
well,
just
so
all right.
it's like, is it like a half-brother situation where Victor's mom is like a human and the dad was like into some stuff?
I don't know. I'm like, yeah, man, love's love, right? Love is love.
Love is
That's
love.
what they say.
Love is love.
Anyway, like
I'm really stoked. I think, like you
I'm very
mentioned,
excited.
the brute 3 intellect thing is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think they've done a really great job with newer sets about really refining hero abilities and how that plays into their identity mechanically. I think maybe in the past sets the hero abilities were too strong.
Yeah.
MST hero abilities way too strong. I think they've done a much better, and some of them, and then in other heroes, for Leviathan, for example, I would say
I think it was Traverse the Universe that was too strong, but
fair. Leviathan's hero ability, for example, is the only hero ability in the entire game that does literally 0, except for
Hurts her.
mitigate a downside. And so there are some hero abilities that just haven't been that great. I have been very happy, despite the fact that I don't play these other heroes, but I have been very happy and very interested in how they've improved just hero ability and tying it to hero identity.
Yeah.
Because that goes a long way to helping shape the card pool.
everything that we love and everything we love about the game too. If your hero doesn't have an identity, then you have nothing to identify with.
Right.
Some of these heroes having these identities, you get to play and you're like, wow, this is really cool. I really do feel like a sellsword right now. Kasai over here, right? I really do feel like I'm recruiting an army. About the market, which I think is a interesting point, right? We talked about. The market, or at least their marketing, I think is really good with Slam Dunk. And some of you might be saying cringe because it's WWE, but hold up. Let's look at it from a different perspective.
Wrestling's fun.
I agree. Wrestling is fun. Guardian Mastery Pack is coming out in August. The set's coming out in September. Guardian Mastery Pack is a let's reach out to your friends, crack, shuffle, play with this new, what's the name of the game? The new...
The product.
Yes, the product.
A Smash Palace.
Yes, Smash Palace. So you're going to play Smash Palace. You're going to crack, shuffle, play with your friends. They're going to fall in love with Smash Palace. Not only do they get to buy more Guardian Mastery Packs to crack, shuffle, and play, but come 1 month from now, you can invite your friends to pre-release for the new Guardian set with all of these Guardian heroes that they're already familiar with, and expands their knowledge and interaction with the game.
Is there a pre-release for the Mastery set? For the
No. I'm talking about we do Mastery set skirmish season actually has crack, shuffle, play.
Oh, cool.
Which is really cool.
That's really cool.
But I don't think there's a pre-release for it. It's just a Mastery set. You can quote me if I'm wrong.
I really like crack, shuffle, play.
But what I mean is like this new game is actually one of the best marketing pieces that I've seen to reach new players, where you can grab a new player and say, hey, here's 3 packs, crack, shuffle, play with me. You had a good time with this like PvP casual experience. Come to pre-release for Super Slam.
Right.
And now you already know how some of these things work, and you won't feel so intimidated just saying, oh, let me just take the stack of Guardian cards and put them into a pile. Maybe just do the normal number ratio. Maybe local players help you with that. But from there, they already know how to play the game. It's Guardian set. I think that's a really good marketing tactic.
I agree. I think the whole crack, shuffle, play paradigm has been great. I know a lot of people have a lot of things to say about Bright Lights, for example, but frankly, Bright Lights, I've never been a big drafter. I never drafted Magic. I never did anything like that. I know that's a core part of Flesh and Blood and everything, but it was frankly never really important to me personally. And but I really did like crack, shuffle, play in Bright Lights. I think the way that they experimented with that set enabled them to not just do crack, shuffle, play with the single class like they're doing with the Guardian, but it made it really easy. I think we literally, Justin and I, my friend Justin and I, when we bought a couple boxes of Bright Lights, we did it exclusively to do the crack, shuffle, play thing. And I thought that was a lot of fun. I think from a marketing perspective, you can only market into the same vacuum so long where you're just regurgitating. I really, really want to see them actually market. Like, get stuff on the internet, get stuff on, I don't know what the kids do now,
That's
television.
what you're saying, like kind of get people to see them in them.
Actually market and use crack, shuffle, and play as the vehicle, or the easier formats, Project Blue, like as the vehicle for that new player onboarding. Because you can have the best, like we talked about the Venn diagram, you can have the best onboarding product, but if no one hears about it, did the tree really fall?
I mean, I would prefer an anime, honestly. Give me a Flesh and Blood anime,
now,
guys.
Funnily enough,
Flesh and Blood video game, I would take that. If I could pick anything, I would love a Flesh and Blood fighting game, like Project 2XO or whatever, 2KXO.
Well,
that would be so sick, man.
They have learned that every set needs a waifu. And Pleiades is a banging waifu.
I mean, we have 3 waifus right here. Would you look
best
at that? Wow, we have 1, 2, 3. Those were the characters. We thought about featuring KO tonight, and we were just like, we'll put the relevant chicks up on board minus.
I mean, we say that jokingly, but frankly, it's true. The demographics are what the demographics are, and people like what they like. People like exciting, bombastic characters that appeal to them, and I think they have been doing a much better job.
Characters
with Pleiades, with what was
characters that embody their energy, that embody their character. Like listen, Huntsman, amazing.
Right.
Arachne Huntsman is an incredible character that is multiple characters in one. He is officially a they/them in a really cool lore way because whoever dons the mask of Arachne is Arachne. Right? And you get the transition and switch between these different heroes.
That was a really elegant design choice.
Yes, it was an incredible design choice that got a lot of people really interested in the hero. And it fits the chaos theme amazing. That at the end of every turn, you transform if your opponent's marked. And your opponent It's like, oh, shoot. Like every time I look at a hunter's clave and I say, do I really care about getting marked? And then I remember, oh yeah, if I do, it represents an additional damage later and go again and he gets a transform. Oh, crazy. Like, okay, sure. Crazy.
The nonsense that is assassins aside, I think you're right. I think that was a really great kind of design masterstroke. In, you take this hero that, let's be honest, Arachne really didn't hit. The whole design space was a little...
Original Arachne, no.
Original Arachne.
He didn't hit so bad that he was supposed to be an Arcane Rising, and then they took him out.
Yeah.
And then they just shoot Ornament into Dynasty,
Yeah.
into his lore spot, and you're like, okay, yeah, we get it.
Yeah.
Assassin's Glass.
But it did open up the door for
it
this
did. That's when I
expansion.
bought all of my Assassin stuff.
Yeah.
Because he was so bad, everything was so cheap. I was like, sick,
Oh, absolutely.
I'll just buy all these things. I did not buy $40 surgicals, though. I waited.
Yeah.
I waited.
Well,
Coming to a close?
I think we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We kind of talked about everything we wanted to. We hit every point. Talked about a few things. Everybody, if you... Andres, where can people find you?
I don't do social media.
You're off social media right now entirely?
I don't do socials.
Awesome.
I had X for Twitter or whatever.
Well, they
for
can
a
find you
little
here.
while. But they can find me here.
Find me here. Find him
Yeah.
here on this channel.
Yeah.
On this podcast where we get to talk a little bit about the game that we love. You can find him at Guildhall on Wednesday nights.
Yeah, Guildhall Anime Lounge, Coconut Creek, Florida.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Me, you can find me on X, right? You can find me at Jeremiah Garden. No, just GARDN. I'm SideQuest Jerry. You can find me on my channel right here, SideQuest Jerry. Like, comment, and subscribe. We're going to do more of these. We're not just going to end here. I think I want to do at least a couple of more episodes, my good friend Andres. I have a lot of really cool locals I'm going to want to have on and maybe interview them if they're down. Like, no pressure to them and everything. But I really enjoyed this. I think it's a great time. Please let me know what you think. Tell me what you want us to talk about. Smash that like button, and I'll see you on the next one.